to the Gridiron Guys YouTube channel, and today we are going to be getting right into our 2020 NFL Power Rankings. And we're going to start with the worst teams in the league, and we are starting with the Washington Redskins. We have them in our hot garbage category, all the way up to the Chicago Bears at 28. Kevin, explain to us why these five teams are at the bottom of our power rankings.
All right, so the bottom of our power rankings are teams assembled into our hot garbage category, which is just a term to describe teams that are entering year one of the rebuild. So that would include the Bengals and the Panthers. Teams like Jacksonville, who are just pretty much known to be tanking. Washington, who is technically going into year two of a rebuild, but their team's
They've made no progress.
haven't
They
really
don't have
made
a
much
quarterback.
progress. But they're under a new coaching staff, which makes it it's kind of like it's like a half. I don't know. It's like year 0.5 of a rebuild, and then you got Chicago, which is just straight up garbage.
Yeah, I think the problem with at least the Jaguars, Redskins, and Bears is even the Panthers, they don't have a quarterback, and that really hurts you. Like Dwayne Haskins, Gardner Minshew, Teddy Bridgewater, Mitchell Trubisky, Nick Foles. These are guys that just they don't offer you much hope to win NFL games unless you're surrounding them with elite roster talent, and it's just not going to work. Washington is probably the worst offense that the league has seen in a couple of years coming into next season. Absolutely putrid offensive line. One
Can't
wide
do
receiver,
anything.
no. They lost Trent Williams and Eric Flowers, two starters, did nothing to replace either. Dwayne Haskins is already running for his life. The running backs are Adrian Peterson and Darius Geis, who can't seem to be on two legs for more than 4 games.
Actually, no.
I
Peterson can
mean,
stay healthy. Darius Geis cannot.
Geis cannot stay healthy. Chicago, it's Bears fans are going to be mad. It's just I just see progression. Defense is getting older. Their offense is just
See, I
it's just
say
not
this as a
good.
Raider fan. It makes me. I hate the fact that Khalil Mack isn't doing much because I love him. Great player. Will always be one of my favorite players. But the dude was not worth the contract when you think about it because they're paying him so much money that they can't help elsewhere. And their offense is supposed to be great under an offensive guru, Matt Nagy. But their defense was good, of course, and Khalil Mack getting triple teamed, it doesn't help, obviously, last season.
I just don't think Chicago can score points. They're like Washington. They're not going to be able to move the ball, and their defense isn't like 49ers dominant to the point where they can win games with their defense. They can stay in games, but I don't see them putting up 20 plus points half the games. The Bengals, it's okay. You are down here because you just started your rebuild. You have your franchise quarterback. Your roster is just completely depleted of talent. You are on the right track. You just can't be ranked higher because you have a very bad roster. Chicago, Washington, they're concerning. The Panthers and the Jaguars are just starting the rebuild now with the draft process. But we like what they're doing. I think we really like the Carolina draft a lot
I love
with
what
that
Carolina did.
defensive emphasis. I mean, getting Uter Gross Matos and Derek
Derek
Brown
Brown.
and Jeremy Chin, just that's a great way to start off a defense that was pretty terrible last year. And their offense isn't bad. The problem with Carolina is Teddy B is a game manager, and they just lost. The retiring of Luke Kuechly really hurt. It's not really their fault. They're doing a decent job of rebuilding. It's just wrong timing. They're in the wrong timing of their rebuild.
Yeah, actually, I think Carolina's in a good time for a rebuild because they know they're not going to win now with three teams in the NFC South who are much better than them. So you kind of just reload now so that way you can strike when the enemy's low in a few years when Breeze, Brady, and Matt Ryan are all probably gone.
Yeah, but we see all of these teams probably. I think the Bengals have the most potential to surprise just because we don't know what Joe Burrow's going to do. He could have an electric
I
rookie season.
honestly, their offense isn't that bad. They technically have T. Higgins as for basically a first round rookie. Jonah Williams is your left tackle. He was a top, he was the 11th pick last year. didn't play a snap. Joe Burrow immediately gonna help out that offense. Joe Mixon's great. They have Tyler Boyd, AJ Green, even
John
John
Ross.
Ross. John Ross could do really well this year. Who knows? He was good up until he got hurt at the beginning of last year. And their
Yeah,
defense, it's not good, but it's going in the right
it's not good
direction.
at all. It's they have a lot. They'll be able to fix it. They have the
They
pieces in
have time
place.
to.
They have 5 years of rookie quarterback. That's the big thing. I think if any of these teams are going to surprise next year, it will be the Bengals. I'm not surprised because none of these teams can surprise. But if any of these teams are going to be competitive to an extent, it's going to be Cincinnati.
I
I
think
think.
of these five, I would say Carolina will do better than we expected.
I agree too. I think Carolina will
Carolina or
outperform the
Cincinnati
30th.
will both
Because
overperform, in my opinion.
Carolina was 4-2, I think, last year. I just don't think
They're not
McCaffrey's going
bad.
to be able to
They
repeat that season.
No, McCaffrey won't be able to have the same type of season, especially because he got paid now. I know that that doesn't mean much, but it just seems to be like a curse when you get paid as a running back. But
Yeah, I mean, it's also tough with
yeah,
their division. You're going to get whooped by the Saints twice. Atlanta and Tampa, those are really hard games. You're struggling to win two division games here. It's not their fault. If they were in the NFC East, they'd be much higher. They'd have a much better chance to be good next year. Well, let's stop dwelling on the bottom feeders because let's give them some mercy and move
yeah.
on to our next section of teams. We have in the 27 to 24 range. We have these teams that have started the rebuild last year. The Giants, Cardinals, Dolphins, and Jets. They all started at least were in the rebuild or started the rebuild, and they all have players that show positive signs. Starting with the Jets, their defense is honestly pretty good.
It is pretty good.
It
It was a top
it's
fantasy defense.
it was a top fantasy defense due to special teams and touchdowns. They have a pretty good front seven. The secondary's
Eh,
okay. They really need some corners. They have nice safeties. The real concern with the Jets is Sam Darnold actually good? Did all these
this is his make or break
mediocre
year.
this is make or break here 100%. Did all these mediocre free agent signings on the offensive line, are they actually going to do anything? Because if they didn't, they wasted a ton of money. Mekhi Becton, boomer bust prospect, is he actually going to be good? If he's not, that's going to hurt them a lot. Considering Le'Veon Bell looked like a grandma running out there last year. I think he had like
He
2.6 yards per
he
carry.
didn't have
Something
a
awesome.
single run over 20 yards last year.
That's something.
It's not good for the
And
contract he got paid.
and then the Jets' wide receivers going into this year are Denzel Mims, Quincy Enunwa, and
Oh,
Jameson Crowder.
okay. I actually have. All right, so they lost Robbie Anderson, and I always thought Robbie Anderson and Brashad Perriman are so similar. It's just Robbie Anderson's like faster. I think he's a little bit taller too, like 6'4" compared to 6'2". So Robbie Anderson's like a better Brashad Perriman. So what do they do when they lose Robbie Anderson? They bring in Brashad Perriman for $2 million cheaper. And then who do they draft? Denzel Mims, who my pro comp for him, Brashad Perriman. You put the two together, and you basically have yourself Robbie Anderson again.
I just think it's sad to say this is what Sam Darnold's third season. That in his third season, these are the wide receivers you're giving him. This is the offensive line you're giving him. The Jets supporting cast for Darnold is awful. Like Le'Veon Bell's a great big name, like Le'Veon Bell. Like people know who that is, but he's not good. He doesn't look like he's not a top 10 running back. It's the Jets will have to be good by Darnold carrying them and the defense playing well.
Yeah, he's
And
done
they're in a tough division. I think the division's better than people think it is too.
yeah.
I mean, they're. I don't know. I don't think the offense is going to be good, and I don't think Adam Gase is a very good coach. That's why we have them at 27.
Yeah, I think they're, even though had Darnold been healthy, there can be a case said that they could have made the playoffs last year. But obviously the mono thing. But I think
I mean, it was also the playoffs at like what 8-8,
they would. I
nine
think they would have
seven.
been like 9-7 had Darnold been healthy. But whatever, you can't dwell on the past. You got mono, whatever.
Exactly. And you look at the teams they beat, the teams they lost to. New England destroyed them last year. Darnold threw 4 picks at home, looked like a college QB out there playing against the number one NFL secondary. I mean, they beat up on Miami, the Giants, and like crappy teams, but we'll see. The Jets defense is definitely pretty good, which will keep them in games. It's just I think their offense is gonna be awful.
Did I still get PTSD from that Giant or Jets Raider game that I went to? Oh my gosh, I can still see the Le'Veon Bell catch right now. Oh,
Moving on now to Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins were a team that were really bad last year, but they put in lots of
it
work in
it
free
was
agency
pretty
and
obvious they were
lots of
tanking.
work in the
Pretty
drafts.
obvious they
Oh
were
yeah,
tanking
they were tanking.
because when they actually started playing, they beat the Eagles. Like that's a good team. They actually were not that bad last year. I feel like they just did a really good acting job at tanking. Tank for
I
Tua.
like a lot of these bottom dweller teams are teams that don't have a coach. You look at most of them. I
I
like
like
what Brian
Flores.
Flores got out of his team last year. He looks to be a really good coach. Their defense could be pretty good next year. Outside of pass rush, they have two great corners. They have a middle linebacker now. They've invested into that defense, and their offense has potential. Drafting Tua, you had Devontae Parker. Running backs are what? Jordan Howard and
Matt Breida.
um, Matt Breida. This is a team that, if Brian Flores can get a lot out of them, I could see them going to 7-9 this year,
He's
being third, right behind New England in third place. I could see them doing
Yeah,
well.
they're definitely not going to make the playoffs, but I expect them to take a big jump this year. I like Tua. The only concern with his playing time this year for me is I think if the team actually plays well the first couple weeks of the season, he's not going to get playing time till the end of the season, if anything. I feel like they're definitely going to try not to make the playoffs. So they can get one more good year of picking, but just enough to show that they're good enough. Like I think Tua
I
might step
mean,
in around week 8 to 12, somewhere between that range.
I wouldn't say they're not going to not play well because they want a good pick,
Mm.
but I think that they think Fitzpatrick's competent enough to play the first 7 or 8 games because with no offseason programs, they don't want to rush to it. And their team, they have 5 years with him. They don't have to rush him in this year. Their team's not complete yet. But I like Miami. I think in a few years, they could be a really good team in a division that, other than Buffalo, seems to be on the decline. Miami's in the right direction. Now for the Giants, my favorite team. Today we have the DeAndre Baker incident, and we'll see what comes of that. It's not too pretty, but I think the Giants are in the right direction because I think they have their franchise quarterback. I know a lot of people disagree, but I think Daniel Jones will be, if the coaching works out and the offensive line is actually decent. I think Daniel Jones will be able to be a franchise guy for the New York Giants for 10 years. I think a lot of what rides on the Giants rebuild right now is Joe Judge going to bring stability to a coaching regime that's seen Pat Shermer and Ben McAdoo in the last 2 years. Coaches like that just simply don't win. I'm not saying the Giants had an NFL talented roster to win, but those guys are just not the guy you want leading the team. Their offense, if the offensive line plays well, could be a top half of the league offense. Problem is the defense is going to be very suspect once again. I like the addition of Xavier McKinney next to Jabril Peppers in the back end. I think that's a good young foundation. And I like their interior defensive line with Dexter Lawrence, Dalvin Tomlinson, and why am I forgetting the last one? Leonard Williams. I think that's solid, but their linebackers are lackluster outside of Martinez, Ryan Conley, ACL injury. They have minimal pass rush, and they have one corner. So their defense is going to be pretty bad, probably bottom 5, bottom 10. But I think their offense might be really good and might be able to carry them some games, some wins this year. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like the direction the Giants are heading in. I really like Joe Judge. A lot of people were skeptical of him at first, but right when I heard about the stuff he's done, I was like, all right, this guy's gonna be a good coach. I think he's definitely
He's
a better fit because he's the player's coach. He'll get the most out of you, but
he's a
just
no
gotta.
nonsense type
Yeah,
guy.
that's
I
exactly
think they
what you
needed
want.
that. Because Shermer and McAdoo had no accountability. They were just clowns. They need a guy who's going to get in there and command the respect of the locker room because they have an offense that has, like, if you can get the maximum potential out of Evan Ingram, Darius Slade, and Sterling Shepard and Saquon, that's a lot of talent at skill position. For most of these bottom teams, they do not have that firepower on an offense. The Giants were banged up last year at skill positions, and that's why I think I have a little more optimism than maybe another fan looking on from us. But I like the weapons we have. I think Saquon is the best back in the league, and with an offensive line in front of him for the first time in his career, I think he can really lead our offense to be good, and that's what we look at the best two teams in the league, Chiefs and Ravens, on our power rankings, and the Saints. The best offenses in the league are the best teams. You got to win by scoring points, and I think that's why I have some faith in the Giants. That defense, they really need to rebuild it though. It's in the midst of a rebuild, but it's a work in progress. That's why we have them at 25 in our finishing the rebuilds. And our last team finishing rebuilds, we have the Arizona Cardinals. Kevin, tell us why we think the Arizona Cardinals are about to emerge as a good NFL team, but they're not quite there yet.
Yeah, now obviously their roster got a big upgrade from last year, and Kyler Murray, I don't even want to talk about it. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year somehow. Somehow, this is complete BS. You know, the league's rigged, whatever. But yeah, this team is only ranked 24 because they have to prove it. They have a very loaded roster like the Browns did last year, and obviously they were way overhyped last year for not having O-line. Very similar to the Cardinals. They don't have an offensive line. So it's going to be tough,
Yeah, and
especially for a mobile quarterback like Kyler. You got to protect him. He's a little guy. Going to get hurt.
I I just really think that the most important part of a team is an offensive line, and they have the weapons like the Giants do. They or the Giants have had weapons, but when you have no offensive line, it limits a lot of what you can do. Having Kyler and being mobile helps, but they can't hit that top 10 offense potential, I don't think, because of that offensive line. It's going to really hold them back. And we have them lower, obviously, because that defense is not good. It, Isaiah Simmons will help. He's a great player. But other than Chandler Jones, Pat Pete, Jordan Hicks played well, but they just were not a good defense last year. If Arizona's able to shore up that offensive line and it's plays pretty well, they could be much better than we expect them to be. But the offensive line's going to hold back that offense from being an elite unit and not that good of a defense.
Yep, completely agree.
Moving on, we have three AFC West teams. In our mediocre category, we have mediocre teams from 23 to 18. These are teams that are around 6 to 8 win teams projected, maybe 9. And we have these three AFC West teams because they all have solid NFL rosters. They just really need everything to go right for them for
It,
them to have a good season next year and make the playoffs.
yeah, it's all going to come down to this divisional game, not the ones against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to win. Like maybe we split with the
Oh,
Chargers. They kind of do that a lot. But like the Chiefs will probably lose one game, one of their 3 or 4 games to one of these three teams. But between the 3 teams we have at 21 through 23, uh, the division games are going to be what counts, and that's what's going to propel somebody to a second spot in the division.
yeah, I just think with all three of these teams, you start with Denver. For Denver to be good, they need their offensive line to play well. They need their defense to stay healthy. They need their young receivers to be able to step in and play well. Their secondary, they've lost a lot of players. I mean, they have safeties, but they don't have corners per se. The Raiders, is Derek Carr going to play a good enough level to win you games?
He
You
played
have
really
wide
well.
receivers. He played well last year, but I'm not a
Yeah,
Carr fan. I mean, I don't watch all the
me either.
games, but I'm not a Carr guy.
As a Raider fan, I think he's a good enough quarterback to get us what we need, especially because he's cheap and it allows us to put our money elsewhere.
I mean, the Raiders, I think it's just can Henry Ruggs come in and be an
But see,
immediate
he
impact?
is though.
Because
A lot of people are giving us like crap for not taking Judy, but if you think about it, taking Ruggs was a smart move because allowing a speed demon on the outside who's actually a good route runner, unlike John Ross coming out of college. But Ruggs will take the top off of defense because last year we had no receivers, so people would stack the box against us, which is why Jacobs got hurt so easily. And this time we're gonna have less of a box for Jacobs, so it's gonna allow him to run more with a good offensive line. Rodney Hudson,
I'm
anchoring
not
it.
I'm not saying that Ruggs will
Oh
struggle
no, I was just saying that
in
because a
the
lot of people
NFL.
do.
I'm just saying that his rookie season might not be the best
Oh, it's
season
not. He's not gonna
because
get that many.
he was he was he was a wide receiver too last year at Alabama, and he had an amazing team around him. I think he'll be a good pro. I like him as a player. I think he's a good draft pick. I just think that his year one impact won't be like a Tyreek
No,
Hill
no, no,
season.
no.
I think it's gonna be kind of a
He's
yeah.
more of a
That's my thing with the Raiders.
strategical piece
Yeah,
as a weapon.
he's gonna take a couple, maybe a year or two to like really get to his full potential and like figure out how he's gonna play the game. But the Raiders have a good defense. I like what the Raiders did
It's
on
a
the defensive end
young
of the ball.
core. It's based on
Yeah,
versatility. That's the thing. Because playing teams like the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos, you need people with a lot of speed on both sides of the ball because you have to get creative with how you use them. Like Tanner Muse is a linebacker safety hybrid that we took. We need people, and we signed Nick Kwiatkowski. Both of those guys are very similar with a lot of speed because we need to take down Pat Mahomes when he scrambles. You can't let him scramble because he's deadly there too.
yeah. And moving on, like the Raiders and the Broncos, we have them slightly behind the
Yeah,
Chargers because the Chargers have a really, really talented roster. If they walked out of this draft with Tua instead of Herbert, we would have put
top
them
15.
probably where, yeah, we would have put them where Atlanta is probably at 15. They have an improved offensive line, great wide receivers, a good running back in Eckler, good tight ends, and a really talented
Their O
defense.
line's good
And the
too.
most important part of that defense, they improved that offensive line. And the most important part of that defense is they have two good pass rushers.
Two
It's
Pro Bowl
huge for an NFL
ends. Like
defense.
what? Two Pro Bowl
Yeah, they have
ends.
if
Their free safety is Nasir Adderley, but he's a second round pick from last year, kind of unproven.
and they have
And
Derwin.
Derwin, and then they have three, wait, maybe even four Pro Bowl corner, like Pro Bowl caliber corners. Desmond
Yeah,
King,
they
Casey
have a
Hayward,
really
and
talented
Chris
roster.
Harris.
If Herbert turns out to be a Josh Allen good, the
The
Chargers will be
Chargers are
top.
going to
They'll
be
be where
very good
Buffalo's ranked.
if Herbert
Very
pans
good
out.
team. Very good team. Philip Rivers has been terrible for the last 2 years, and they've had a really good team. If Herbert comes in week 5 and starts playing really good football, they're going to be able to play Kansas City well. We just have them low because we
Unproven.
personally don't like Herbert. We don't think will be an amazing quarterback, but he could be. We've watched the tape. We've seen him play some really good games towards the end of the year against nice ranked
So iffy.
opponents. It's
So
just,
iffy.
it's just the problem is you have Tyrod Taylor right now, and I give the advantage, sadly, to Derek Carr and Drew Lock over Tyrod Taylor. But I like the Chargers from a potential standpoint because that roster is really, really good. Same thing with the Rams team. We're moving on to 20, and the Houston team is the opposite of that, but we'll get to that in a second. The Rams have another team that is really good.
I
I
think
think
it's
they have a really good
overrated.
roster. Kevin thinks it's overrated. We're kind of split on the Rams. I think the Rams offense is going to kind of come back to what it was 2 years ago. I like McVay as a coach. That's why I have a little more faith in the Rams than Kevin does, because I think coaching
No, I think
is a
McVay's a
much
great
bigger
coach.
thing.
Top 5 coach in the NFL.
I also think their defense is better than you give it credit for.
We're
We're
very
split on the
split.
Rams. He put them
I
lower. I
put
put
them
them
low.
higher. I think they're going to be an 7-9, 8-8 team with a
I
great
think they
offense.
go
I like.
6-10 to 8-8.
What do you think? I think they're better than Arizona. I like the addition of, was it Van
Yeah,
Jefferson
it was a good
out of
pickup.
Florida? I think that Brandon Cooks not playing well last year really hurt their trio because their trio really works well together because none of them are wide receiver ones. They're all kind of wide receiver twos. I think that they can have an elite passing attack. I like what their tight ends can do. And I think that Cam Akers should improve a shitty ground game that they had last year. So I think they're mediocre. I think their star power will carry them on defense. Jared Goff is better than most of the QBs in any of the teams we've talked about so far. And McVay is a good coach. I don't think they're 11, 12 win potential, and I don't think they're 6 or 5 win potential. I think they're a pretty steady, mediocre team that they'll beat who they should and they'll lose to who they should. That's what I think of the
Yeah,
Rams.
I kind of just think their defense took a lot of hits. They lost a lot of people on defense. They lost Roby Coleman, Littleton. Actually, they got Brockers back. They
I
lost
lost Fowler
Fowler. They
too.
lost Clay Matthews. Not really sure who they have at free safety now. I know they have John Johnson, but whatever. I think their defense is based on two players, in my opinion, which they're both unreal, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, but you can easily just throw at one side and double team him. I mean, it's not going to work that well, but it'll slow him down.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a 7-win
They're a
team, 7-8
mediocre
win
team,
team.
which is
That's
why
what I
we
have them
got them
at.
in this category.
I like Goff more than most. I
Yeah, I'm
think
not
that
very high on golf.
he's over criticized for what being a fourth year quarterback.
Yeah, but I
I
still
think
he just doesn't really jump out to me as a top quarterback.
he's not elite, but
He's
I think
good. He's good
he's
at he's
good.
not elite.
I think he's pretty good. I have him in that 10 to 15 QB range. Now a team that's the
This
opposite
team
of the
is
Rams.
hot
Deshaun
mess.
Watson. If I'm a Texans fan, I'd be furious because you have a quarterback who can win multiple Super Bowls. He's that good. He's Russell. He could be Russell Wilson s good. He could be MVP good. Bill O'Brien and whoever's managing that team has stripped it of all the
Bill
talent in the
O'Brien.
world. You put Deshaun Watson on probably 28 other teams. Maybe take out Carolina, Washington, Jaguars, and Cincinnati or the
That team.
Jets. They're going to be a playoff team. Deshaun Watson's that good. The Texans are that
Yeah.
bad. Deshaun Watson will carry them to mediocrity. I really hope for his sake that they put something in front of him. 2 years from now, they rebuild the team the right way while he's not getting paid. I like David Johnson. I love DeAndre Hopkins, though. I don't know.
This team is built by one man. Is the GM and the coach, Bill O'Brien. He is a moron. This guy, I mean, dude, how are you going to trade DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson? You can't tell me.
And Ross Blacklock, I
You
think that's his
can't
name.
tell me that that's equal. I don't care what they wind up doing in their careers, Blacklock and Johnson. DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers of all time. And you traded him because you have a problem with his ego, and you two have a feud. Work it out. Or something.
You couldn't get. You should have gotten that Arizona first and gotten Isaiah Simmons.
Exactly.
Then we're talking about a
That's
fair
fair.
trade. Isaiah Simmons and
I could
David
get past
Johnson
that.
for DeAndre Hopkins. I can get past that too because I think the Texans are going to have a good offense next year. Their offensive line is average. It's not bad. Their wide receivers, if
They're
healthy,
all number
Will
twos,
Fuller,
but they
Kenny
can get it
Stills.
done. They can get it
They're all
done if
number
healthy.
twos, but Deshaun Watson will make them good. And Darren Fells has played pretty well for them. And on the ground game, David Johnson, he was an elite back, top 3 back in the league a couple years ago. And him and Hyde, they could put together a really nice season. The Houston offense could be
This
elite.
team
They could
is
have an elite offense
this team is
because Watson.
built on offense and defense. If they can stay healthy, they can be kind of solid. They kind of took a Bills approach and signed a lot of mediocre players in hopes that it forms into a mediocre team with a higher upside.
Yeah, I just really think that they should have gotten Isaiah Simmons at a first round pick
Oh, at
instead of
that
second
point, it
round
would have
pick.
been a very fair trade and very respectable.
I would have supported that because I get not wanting
Yeah,
to
I
pay
would
that star
understand that.
maybe diva
But when you trade
receiver.
him
I
for a
don't.
bag of
You look at the
peanuts, like,
Giants. Hole.
bruh.
You look at the
The
Giants got
Raiders
for
got
Odell. They
two
got a
first round
first
picks
round
for
pick.
Khalil Mack, and you can't tell me.
I mean, ends are more important than
Yeah,
wide receivers, but the Giants got a first, a third, and Jabril, who's probably equivalent to a second, maybe late first. That's a lot. That's a lot for a wide receiver who got paid $100 million contract too. Houston got a second and a 29-year-old running back.
yeah.
That's not a lot. And I feel bad for Deshaun Watson. Put an F in the chat for him because his career is kind of a rip unless he leaves teams. I mean, it's tough. You have a top 5 quarterback and you're at 19 on the power rankings. I don't see any elite quarterbacks so low on any other team. It's not good. It makes me sad to think about. It's not good. But we can't talk about Texans forever. Let's move on to our next category. And this is the teams that they have solid rosters, but we don't really think they're going to put it together because everything has to go right for them. And that is starting with the New England Patriots. This is a team that the roster
Coaching.
kind of looks
This
pretty
is
bad.
all based on
I'm not gonna
coaching. Their
lie.
roster does not look that good. I mean, they didn't lose a whole lot on the offensive side, but their offense wasn't amazing last year. They got it done. It's based on can Stidham take that next step, or there are people saying that the Patriots are serious. Like people within organizations truly believe that they are going to take a rebound year, just basically tank for Trevor Lawrence, a guy who can come in, one of the best quarterback prospects in a while.
I mean, personally, I think Bill thinks
Yeah.
he could win with anything. So I think they're going to go into the season and then they're going to reevaluate in like 4 weeks because that defense, it's still going to be really good. And their weapons on offense are unproven and not that great, but I could see a few of them like Sonny Michelle and Nikhil Harry panning out and being good. I think no one has any idea what they have in Stidham. They saw it in Brady. If they see it in Stidham, I trust them. They haven't done anything at quarterback, haven't even been rumored for
Yeah,
most
but
anything. I think it comes down to Bill Belichick gives me a sense of hope for them. I just don't doubt the Patriots. They've been so good for 20 years that I think they have a plan in effect. They may not, they may be panicking, but I just because of the Patriots, I have them above the
yeah,
other
I
13
agree. I
teams.
think had they had a different coach, they would definitely not be this high. But they have taken a lot of quarterbacks in the past and missed, which is kind of, well, not really missed, but just traded them off, and they've done pretty well. So I I'm kind of torn on it because they have had a few quarterbacks that just haven't really turned out to be much. Um, but I do have a lot of hope for Stidham. My only concern is they did lose a lot of pieces in total. But then again, it is also a system, basically.
And they also had like four
Yeah.
third round picks to replace all those guys with probably guys that are going to come in and make immediate impacts. Because New England's a scheme team. They maximize a player's strengths. And that's what every NFL team strives to achieve. They are able to get the best out of a player. And that's why they've been so successful. I wouldn't be surprised if New England won the division again. I don't think anyone would blink. And I'd be more surprised if they got in last place than first place, honestly. We had them in 18 because there's so much unknown about this team. They operate so behind the scenes. There's no media, no coverage, no anything. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. New England's my most intriguing team for next year. I'm really
Mm.
curious to see what happens with them because who knows? Maybe Seven starting the next Patriots dynasty and they make the playoffs in Buffalo too. It's great. I don't know, but a team with a much better overall roster. I mean, everyone else here has a much better overall roster than New England's. We have the Colts, Lions, Falcons, and Eagles. These are teams that we have as also, as we said before, teams that need everything to go right, and they will probably be a playoff team. Starting with the Colts,
I love
they
this
have a
team.
really, really good
I think it can
roster.
be good.
Great offensive line. Kevin, Kevin's higher than I am. I'm not a Philip Rivers guy. I like their defense, and I like Michael Pittman and T.Y. Hilton now. I feel like they've been lacking a lot of wide receivers for a while. I think if Phil plays good, they're gonna be good. If Phil is terrible, they're gonna be mediocre to
Mm.
bad. I mean, I don't know. I think that they are a franchise quarterback away from being an elite top five team in the NFL. They're young, they have cap space. I like the Buckner move because I think you're getting a solid player. They know they're not trying to rebuild for 3 years. They need a quarterback, and they're there. They're going for the win. I mean, uh, I wish they had a QB. I hope I hope they're good. I just think Philip Rivers is not that good. That's why we have them mediocre. We need everything to go right. If Philip Rivers plays really well, they will be a playoff team. They were almost a
Yeah,
playoff team
I
last
mean
year.
they beat the Chiefs last year, the Super Bowl champions, with Jacoby Brissett, and I think with that offensive line, how young and good it is, it's so good. Um, Philip Rivers did not have an offensive line last year, and his numbers are always good. I mean, yes, he threw a lot of interceptions last year, but a lot of it can be blamed on his team, which just completely underperformed. Um, I love the Jonathan Taylor pick. I think him and Michael Pittman were home run picks, in my opinion. Michael Pittman was one of my favorite receivers in this year's draft because of how he reminds me a lot of Michael Thomas, the way he's able to take the ball in basically any scenario and just come away with it. I think him and T.Y. Hilton, and don't forget about their second round pick last year, Paris Campbell, who was injury plagued last year. He could come out and be really good. But I do like the tandem that Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor are going to provide with that great offensive line. Marlon Mack's last year in his contract. Jonathan Taylor could be the back of the future. Also, watch out because I think Philip Rivers will be a Pro Bowl quarterback this year with that offensive line. It's a hot take,
That's a hot
but
take right there.
his season is either going to be like Joe Flacco with Denver, where they have a Brissett come in and then they either just lose a lot of games, or they're going far with Philip Rivers making the Pro Bowl at quarterback. I think there's no in between, in my opinion, because they have a good young defense too. Buckner was a
Yeah,
great trade.
I think so too. It's all in Phil.
Quarterback
Big
play
Phil's how you
determines
get
that team.
done. I like Easton to develop. Hopefully he develops, but it's all in Phil right now. And then our next team, the Detroit Lions. I really like the Lions. I think there's a lot less to say about them besides they just got unlucky last year. They played some really good football. They lost to some really good teams. They got screwed in that Green Bay game. They choked that Chiefs game. They're in a tough division. I think a healthy Stafford, a solid draft class, hopefully a running game, emergence of Kenny Galladay finally. We were all waiting for that. You fantasy players especially. I think the Lions could be really good. I think they could be better than Green Bay potentially. I think that their offensive line has to play well, and their defense has to live up to the potential that it has. It's not elite, but it has to be average because that offense can be really, really good if Stafford's healthy.
Yeah,
I'm high on the
yeah,
Detroit
I like
Lions.
the
I don't know why.
Lions.
I
I
just
think
think
they
they're gonna
have
be good this year.
a good. They just have a pretty solid team around them. I think there's no real like one position that I can spot out like, oh, that's a big weakness, like that's gonna kill them. Um, they're in a very weird division where who knows they could because they were leading for 9 games in the fourth quarter and then they ended up losing. So they're very very inconsistent team. That if they can just become more consistent than they were last year, who knows? It could be a 10-win team and potentially even win the division. Who knows?
Yeah, the NFC wild card's gonna be really tough. It's usually tougher than the AFC wild card the last couple of years, so they may be a tough time in the playoffs. But I would not be surprised with the winning record here with a healthy season. They have a really talented roster, great offense. I'm questionable with Patricia at the head coach, but they have a proven quarterback, and I like the Lions. I think a 9-win team. Same. This is kind of a similar thing for the Atlanta Falcons at 15. They've been good, so you wouldn't be surprised if they replicate that success. They have a really good offense. I think if Matt Ryan plays well, the offensive line should be better, and Todd Gurley is better than Devonta Freeman. He should be if he's healthy. Their offense should be better than last year. And their defense, it's shown potential. It's got to stay healthy because it's not deep. They got a lot of elite talent though in Deion Jones, Keanu Neal, now Dante Fowler and Grady Jarrett. I think Atlanta is could be a sneaky team to finish second in that
Yeah, I
NFC
agree. I think
South.
Atlanta has a very underrated offense. I like the Todd Gurley pickup. Gives him a solid running game. Still don't know where Devonta Freeman is, but he'll find someplace. And he just
Exactly. That man
fell
just fell
off.
off.
He used
He
to be
had some
really
really
good.
good seasons.
And I kind of just I think they're a very solid team, but it shows the trust that they put in Dan Quinn by keeping him back. The players love him, which is always a good sign. If you have a group of players who will do anything it takes to keep you as a head coach, it says something. And they're not too far removed from a Super Bowl, which leads me to believe they're a lot better than people give them credit for. Julio is
Yeah,
unreal.
I mean,
Best receiver in the game.
they just have. Yeah, he really is. I think they are going to have a really good offense, and I just think Atlanta's better than their record was last year. Now another bird team, the Philadelphia Eagles. I think I would have been higher on. I mean, I'm a Giants fan, so I despise the Eagles, but I don't think they're that. I think they might be even a bit too high here, just because their
I
draft just really
I think
didn't
the
do them
opposite here.
much justice. We didn't. He thinks more of their draft than I do, and I'm not saying they have terrible drafts, but for starters, we think Justin Jefferson should have been the pick, and I think they should have really went some position of defense instead of Jalen Hurts because I think their defense. I've watched them for multiple years. I watch every Giants Eagles game, and other Eagles games. It's getting older. They've lost a lot of players. Their linebacker depth is not what it was. They lost Malcolm Jenkins, guys like Fletcher Cox. Their defensive line's aging. I think they really need not an influx. I think they just need to bring some young talent. I think Philly's a really old team, and I think like as they showed last year, they got really injured. Jalen Rieger is definitely. I like him as a receiver. I think he's been very good, but if he's not good, they're gonna have the same exact issue they had last year. Jeffrey's been injury prone his entire life. I mean, it's just They're good. I have faith in the QB and the coach is why I have them hot. We have them high. I just think their roster might be a Texans type roster come the
Yeah,
end of
I
the
mean, I
season for the
I
future.
personally think they could be a little bit higher in my opinion because they're a lot better than their record showed last year. They had a lot of injuries. Carson Wentz is still very great. Miles Sanders had a great year. I think Jalen Rager is really good. He has the downside of being like Nelson Aguilar, and at worst, you basically just replace Nelson Aguilar with Nelson Aguilar. So you're playing the risk.
Yeah, but the problem is they're
No,
not
no,
any
no,
better
no.
than
But
last year
here's
though.
the
If
reason why they
Nelson
are going to
Aguilar
do
with Nelson
better
Aguilar.
is because they upgraded their defense where they needed to help. They needed help at cornerback so desperately, and they got Darius Big Play Slay, and Darius Slay is going to help shore up that secondary. They added Nikel Roby Coleman, solid cornerback. They lost Malcolm Jenkins, but I'm trying to remember who they brought in. That was a solid pickup. Whatever. But
They brought him that they brought in
yeah,
Hargrave from the
their
Steelers on
front
defensive
seven's
line.
solid. I think they're a much better
I'm
team.
concerned.
Their O
Their front
line's not
seven's
bad
really
either.
good.
Like they upgraded
I
that
just
in the
think that
draft too. I think they're a lot better than what people give them credit for.
I think there's a fair ranking now. I think they're old. They concern me with
They're
their
not that
age.
old.
Like they don't have much talent under.
Under
They're pretty
25.
old.
I
Name some
mean, I don't
talent
know
under
the age.
25.
That's so mad. But Miles Sanders, Jalen Rager. I don't know how old Zach Ertz is. I think he's probably older. I
He's
don't know
like
how old
29.
Goddard's good too.
Goddard. I mean,
I mean,
I just think they're
they're
an older team.
they're not that old. They're kind of like mid 20s, like 25 to 27. I'd say is probably the average age. Which yes, it's old compared to a lot of teams,
I
but
don't
they
know.
get it done. They kind of have. I was.
They will.
Yeah,
They're win. The
they know
Phillies
what they're
winners.
doing.
I'm
I
not
think
gonna
they'll be all
lie.
right.
I mean, yeah, I see them as an 8 and 8,
I
9,
think
7
between
team,
8 and 8, 10 and
second place in
6.
the
Same
division.
thing with Dallas, but we'll get into them in a second.
Yeah. Next team we have is Cleveland
All
Browns, and
potential. All. This team is
I don't know,
all
man.
potential. And
They're
like somebody said on the Pat McAfee show, if you're not an NFL coach until you've been fired from Cleveland, so let's see what Stefanski can bring, and hopefully his tenure will last longer, and hopefully he won't get fired. But this team is way too good to not make the playoffs this year, and if they don't make the playoffs, it is all on Baker, and then at that point they need a new QB.
yeah. I mean, the roster they have is honestly just as good as Baltimore Saints, 49ers, Chiefs. It's that good. They have elite talent on all levels of their team. Baker's underperformed. If he plays bad again, you got to think about cutting ties or at least a future plan at QB. They can't get the coaching situation right. But that it's not much to discuss, but they have a really damn good roster
Mm-hmm.
that should be winning more games. They have a really hard division, I'm not gonna lie. Their division is probably one of the toughest in the league. But they're the only I mean they have three teams in the top 13 in their division or power rankings. But I just think if they don't come out with a winning record next year, major changes need to be made. Major changes. And I think that this is the make or break year because they have a good offensive line. You can't pick out really one weakness of that team and say that's going to hold them back. And then that's the only thing you can say is the quarterback or the coach at this point. Their roster is
Yeah,
phenomenal.
no, that team is too good. It's all in the
It's good.
coaching. As long as they can maintain, because that locker room has a lot of different personalities in it. As long as they have a coach, which I hope Stefanski can, because this team would be a lot of fun to watch if they're good. Because no, they are good, but if Stefanski can own the locker room and keep the personalities in check, this team has the potential to be amazing.
Yeah, they really do. They really do. I like the Browns. And the Bucks are some more teams than the Browns. We have them back to back. Another really good roster with a better quarterback and a little bit worse roster talent. We have them. We have the Bucks better than the Browns, not because their roster's better, but because their QB and coach are significantly better than Baker and Stefanski. I have faith in Brady and Arians. Their offensive line spits sus. Their defense is okay, but those are two winners. Great wide receivers. I just think the Bucks are going to get done. It's not going to be pretty, but they were what an 8-win team last year. You're adding best quarterback of all time and a far superior coach to what they've had, at least usually. I think Arians got the most out of what he could have out of Jameis, and I think he'll do Brady justice. And I like the Bucks to be a wild card next year. We're getting into our playoff teams, our
Yeah,
top 12. These are our projected playoff teams.
I think the Bucks are a little overrated in the sense that their defense is still a little too young for me to buy into the hype yet. But very similar to the Browns, they have the potential. It's all there. It's just will the team mesh? And I think they're going to start off kind of slow because they have to build that bond. But once this team gets rolling, it's going to be hard to stop them.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
they're
that whole
also in a tough
division's a toss
division,
up
but
because injuries. This is
I
also
think
not
that
taking into account injuries because it's way too early. But if injuries do occur to some of these teams, it could be very hard for them to win.
exactly. And I have faith in Brady. His level to play may decline, but he's also throwing the garbage last year. Now he's throwing to the best wide receiver tandem in the NFL. I don't know. I just think they're going to be good. And now Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys have disappointed lately, but I think just because the NFC East is so bad, they're going to have
They're
another
not that good.
probably first place season. Their offense is in a. They're not that good. If they're in any other division that's pretty competent, they're probably a second or third place team. But they basically got two free wins against the Redskins, two pretty easy games against the Giants, and then two games that are against Philly that are pretty equal. They should win four division games at least. I don't know. I just think that their offense will be really good. Dak Prescott is an average quarterback behind with a superior supporting cast. CeeDee Lamb's only going to improve that. Michael Gallup and Mark Cooper are really good. So is Zeke. We all know this. Their defense definitely taking a step back, though, which is the only reason why I think they won't be as good as the hype has been around them. Losing Byron Jones, Malik Collins, Robert Quinn,
Yeah.
they're definitely going to have some holes in that defense. And I think that the Giants and Eagles are not going to be as good, but I think they're going to put some more pressure on them in those games because that defense is it's not going to be good. It's going to be bottom. It's not bottom of the league, but other than their linebackers and Demarcus Lawrence, there's not much there. Their corner is not that good. Like I'm concerned for the Dallas defense because if Dak Prescott has a few crappy games, that defense is not going to be winning them games. They're going to be putting up points to win because I don't know.
Uh,
It's just the NFC East is putting
I
them so high.
think
The
Dallas
NFC
is
East,
going to have
it's
a
so
good
bad.
season. And by good, I mean they'll make the playoffs probably because the NFC East. I think they might just edge out Philly, but it's going to be neck and neck for most of the season. Dallas's offense is just too potent. Like, Dak Prescott's probably going to throw for about 5,000 yards this year, mostly because his offense is just unreal.
Oh
You can
yeah,
throw any quarterback in that offense, and they'll have a great season. Dwayne
there's Dwayne
Haskins would probably
Haskins
have
in
like
there, and I think he'd
3,500
probably
yards,
put up.
probably 10 less picks. Very solid. Yeah, honestly, throw me out
Put
there,
me
coach.
out there. I could
I'll
probably
put
throw
up
for a
like
couple hundred.
3,000 yards. It's a great offense.
No, yeah.
Their
I
defense
really
is
think that the
questionable,
Dallas
though.
offense is going to carry them. I like I like their offensive supporting cast. I wish the Giants had a supporting cast, but their defense took a step back, and this is why we don't
His
have them higher.
defense does
We
win
have them as a
championships. I
low
mean,
tier playoff
yes,
team.
last year the Chiefs had a great offense, but defense is ultimately the key contributor.
Defense wins championships.
And the Chiefs had a great defense last year, too, but we'll get into
Exactly.
that later.
And now on to our top 10. These are our
I mean,
big win teams, double
technically
digit
not
win
double
teams.
digits. They're going to go 9 and
Tennessee
7, let's be
Titans,
honest here. They'll go 9 and 7, but they'll be way
but
better than
I
that.
really like Derrick Henry, and basically I really like Derrick Henry. That's where it starts and where it ends.
Daddy
Their
Dirk.
their offensive line is going to be as good, if not better, with addition of Isaiah Wilson over Jack Conklin, who wasn't as good as people thought he would be. If Tannehill can repeat what they were doing last year and play that well, they're going to be better than we think they are. They have a good defense. I think the Titans are basically what they were last year, no more, no less. I don't have
Yeah,
much about to say about them.
I think the Titans are basically the exact same team they were last year. Just instead of having Logan Ryan, they replaced him in the draft with Christian Fulton. They lost Dion Lewis, replaced him with Darrington Evans, who I think is going to be a monster. He could, him and Derrick Henry could be one of the best running back duos in the league next year. But that'll unfold as time goes on. But Isaiah Wilson's just a better run blocking version of Jack Conklin.
He really is, and that's what they
So
need. They could scheme
realistically,
to.
they didn't really take a step down or a step up. I think they basically just stay the same. It's just I think the real reason why they were so good is because Ryan Tannehill, nobody really knew that much about him because they've kind of forgot about him, and it was hard to stop the fire that they were playing with.
Yeah, I really agree with that. It kind of caught people off guard. I think Titans are basically what they were last year in a pretty weak division. They're going to win the division, but probably 6-9-7. They're going to be what they are. Ground and pound team with the solid defense. That's going to keep them in games.
Yeah, they'll win the division with
Pittsburgh
ease.
Steelers.
Actually, never mind.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, moving
Yeah.
on, are a team that is more or less the same as the Titans. Good defense. Well, Pittsburgh has an elite defense.
Yeah, I was going to say their defense is top 3.
It is top 3. I think that Pittsburgh could be a Super Bowl contender next year. That's how much faith I have in that defense. If Big Ben can give me a half-decent season and their offensive lines can keep them upright, I like Pittsburgh to be a surprise team in the AFC. They might give Baltimore some fits with that defense.
I think they'll probably take down Baltimore once this season, probably on Thanksgiving, because that just kind of seems like something they would do. But I think this season is based on the fact, can Ben do it? Because they didn't want to draft a backup knowing that, because the fans of Pittsburgh don't want
He'd grow
Rudolph.
disgruntled.
He would get disgruntled. It would hinder Roethlisberger's rehab because he would be too focused on getting back. Maybe he doesn't fully rehab or something. I don't know. But I think the best move for the franchise was not taking a quarterback in the draft. I think they did good. Let Ben play, but you're running the risk. If he gets hurt, your season's in the toilet because Mason Rudolph is garbage and Duck Hodges is even worse.
I've been saying it for a month now. Go get Cam Newton. It makes so much sense.
They actually had an offer for Jameis Winston that was more money than the Saints, but he turned him down.
Go get Cam Newton. You really need a backup because
Cam Newton. The only problem, though, if they get Cam Newton, that's a guy who can actually take Ben's job.
I don't care. I don't care.
They can't do that to Ben. I mean, I think it would work, but they have too much loyalty to Ben that they wouldn't do it. Like, I think they'd bring in Cam if he would come in on a cheap deal and know he's back up. But I think Cam would actually outplay Ben and fit better with the team.
Probably would, but if I'm a general manager, I'd say screw it. Let's go get Cam Newton. So we had some technical difficulties to cut the audio, but we're going to start with Green Bay. And the Green Bay Packers, I could have been better than their GM last year, let's be honest. This draft was abysmal. They were a 13-win team that basically said, we don't think our Super Bowl window is open anymore. So we're going to go out and rebuild. We're going to draft a running back, actually. I want to draft a running back when we have the best ground game in the NFL. And I'm going to draft a quarterback when I have a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, Green Bay's in for some positive regression. I really am frustrated with what they did because I think they went from a NFC championship to a maybe even third place finish in that division. I think Detroit could be better than them. That's a hot take. I mean, it just infuriates me how incompetent a team could be. It's Houston Texans level incompetent. I feel for both their franchises. I'm sorry. But it's just, how can you say we can't win with Aaron Rodgers when every other team behind them would die to have a quarterback like that? I don't know, man. It's frustrating.
Yeah. I think by taking Jordan Love, the only positive for the present that I can say about that was maybe you pull some John Wick mode out of Aaron Rodgers that he channeled a few years ago, and he just destroys defenses and propels you to a Super Bowl. Who knows? But A.J. Dillon, I cannot get behind that pick. That pick was so stupid. But
that's my least favorite pick. I love the player.
I love the player.
Hate the fit.
Worst pick of the draft in terms of fit. But, like, had they taken a guy like T. Higgins at, 26? that would have been an awesome fit. And I think that right there solves your biggest issue. And you're now probably in the top 5 if you just get
Oh
one
no,
player.
I'd probably put them right behind Minnesota at 6.
Oh yeah,
Probably.
you're better than Seattle and Buffalo if you can get a second receiver because
Oh, 1,000%.
Marcus
And then you
Valdez
can
Scantling can't cut it.
and then you can use your second round pick to draft a defensive playmaker because you don't need AJ Dillon. You have Jamal Williams, the backup, who's honestly could be a starting caliber on some teams. It's bad. It's really bad. I think 8's honestly a generous ranking for them. I could see them all the way down at 14. I wouldn't even be surprised if I them at 14. We give Aaron Rodgers the benefit of the doubt because he's that good and they'll win games because they'll be the team that they're supposed to be. I don't want to talk about them because it makes me mad. Buffalo Bills. I love them. They're honestly
I
my
like
second
him a
favorite
lot too.
team. I
Very
love
very
how they
likable.
play. I love Josh Allen. I love Josh Allen. I love the resurgence of John Brown. I'm sorry, not Josh Brown. And I think Stephon Diggs will be a great addition to that team. They said, we don't want a receiver. We want a receiver who's going to help us win this year. We are capitalizing on the New England downfall, and we are going to be an AFC contender. That elite defense will keep them in every game. If Josh Allen can improve on his season from last year, they're the third best team in the
Yeah,
AFC,
I
and I
think
think they will be.
I love the direction they're heading in. McDermott's a great coach. Josh Allen took some great strides last year. Who knows? Maybe he could be an MVP candidate this year. But
That's a good. That's a
I
good
think he
surprise
could be a
MVP
dark
candidate
horse
right there.
MVP candidate. Like if they honestly, Matt, we should go into like we should do some betting like before the season starts, if we even have a season this year. Throw some money on Josh Allen. But anyways,
I mean,
sorry.
yeah, I agree with that though. No, yeah, people don't realize Buffalo gave Baltimore a hell of a run towards the end of the year. They played them really well. I like Buffalo. They choked that Houston game. I think it was just an inexperienced thing. Houston's been in the playoffs. Houston even gave Kansas City a bit of a fit. Let's be honest here. I just think Buffalo really is slept on. That defense is good, really, really good, and they're honestly. I think they win
Oh
12
yeah,
games. I think they're competing for
they're
competing
definitely
for a
good
bye,
enough for that.
but
I actually
they're really good. There's not much to
the
dislike.
only thing I think that could hold them back, and I know this is gonna sound stupid, but if Stephon Diggs comes in and ruins that chemistry, that I think could be the only thing. Because he does have a
I
diva
think Stephon.
mentality, but he's so good. Like he's a great player.
I think Stephon's more of a diva
That's
when they're
true.
losing.
I
I
think
think
he'll
he'll
be
be happy
happy
in
in Buffalo
Buffalo.
because Josh Allen has that amazing arm strength that he desires.
I love Diggs this year for fantasy.
Oh, if
Oh
you can
my,
get
Diggs gonna
Diggs
have a
and
really
Allen,
fantasy
that's
year.
a 1-2 knockout punch.
I think they'll probably both be pretty good value too. I haven't seen their
Allen's gonna go high this
ADP,
year, I
but
feel like. Well, yeah,
we're not
we'll
getting into
get into that.
fantasy right now. Buffalo, love Buffalo. Second, third team. I hope they do well. I'm rooting for them. Seattle, kind of a Houston situation, but a bit
They're
improved.
a weird team.
Russell Wilson's an MVP candidate, but their offensive talent's not bad, but their defense, it's just the roster's
It's
not
an
that
okay
good.
team, but they get it done. They just
It's an okay team with an
yeah.
MVP. That's what it
Wilson
is.
makes the team so great.
You're gonna get beat. You're gonna get beat by the teams above you, but you're gonna probably work most of the teams below you. I mean, I think Russell Wilson gives you a chance at the Super Bowl. I just think they need some impact players on that defense. I think they might have the best bold prediction. I could see them having the best offense in the league next year. I just think their
Bold
defense is not that good.
prediction: Will Disley is a top 6 tight end next year.
I
I
wouldn't be
like Will
surprised.
Disley a
I
lot.
wouldn't be surprised.
But Seattle, I feel like on paper you wouldn't really project them to be amazing, but Wilson's play elevates them to a top 6.
Also,
Pete
great
Carroll's a good
coach
coach, yeah.
in Pete Carroll. Exactly. Now, Minnesota. People may be why is Minnesota so high? And I think Minnesota could have been way lower if not for their really, really
Yeah.
good drafts. They lost Stephon Diggs. They lost
Oh, you
Xavier
replace him with
Rhodes.
2 first
They
rounders.
lost
Plug and play.
exactly. And Justin Jefferson and Jeff Gladney. We both think those are really, really good
I think
day
both
one
are better
impact players.
fits too. Like Jefferson, I think will have more catches than Diggs in not over the season, but in the system. Like if you look at Diggs this season last year for Minnesota, I think Jefferson has enough talent to break that. Just because Jefferson fits what Kubiak wants to run. And same thing with Jeff Gladney. Jeff Gladney is the exact corner, the exact build that Mike Zimmer wants.
I think Minnesota, they're going to be really good. Their offense will be really, really good because they have a run game. A lot of these top teams, they don't have, like, you look at the Chiefs, Ravens, Saints maybe, Niners, Seahawks. They don't have that go-to back that can just kill clock when they're up. Dalvin Cook, when healthy, if he's healthy this year, really, really, really
Yeah.
good. I like Minnesota. I think they're a great team. They may have to get over the hump with some players emerging on defense to really get over that 49ers Saints tier. They're just below that. But I like Minnesota. I like what they're doing. Moving on to the Niners. I have no hate for the Niners. They basically have the same exact roster with Ayuk replacing Sanders and
Those are
Kinlaw
big
replacing
losses though,
Buckner.
which is why they're
I
fourth.
Those are big losses. We have, I think, a bit of regression just because everything worked out for them
Yeah.
last year. They just seem to have no big injuries. Jimmy G, I don't think he's much better than what he
I don't
showed
think Jimmy
last
G's
year.
that great.
I think that
Hot take he's
I don't think so either.
is outside of the top 20.
Hot take: Daniel Jones is
I'd
better
take
than
that
Jimmy
hot
G.
take. I think Jimmy G's
That's my
just
hot
game
take.
manager.
I think so too. I'm not a fan of Jimmy G. I think that their roster is really, really good, but I think that all the position players last year did really well for them, and I think they're in for some people to have off seasons, down seasons, or
Yeah.
injuries. And I just think the quarterback is they have the worst quarterback and are probably top
Yeah.
8 teams.
And I
Significantly worse
think
quarterback.
the 49ers, I mean, obviously they're very young at defensive tackle and wide receiver now. And I think that is the reason why they're number 4. But John Lynch, you have to give him credit because he took a potentially disastrous offseason and turned it into a very positive, bright-looking future.
Yeah, I think so too. I like the Niners.
He
I
did what
think
Green
they're
Bay wanted to do.
really, really good. Yeah, he really did. They really turned that around really fast. And I think they're just below our top elite tier of Saints, Ravens, and the Chiefs. The Saints, I don't know what it is, but they choke every single
It
year. It
bothers me because
bothers
I
me.
love
I
Drew
like the Saints,
Brees.
but
Drew
they just
Brees
don't
is
get it
too
done.
good to be losing games like this. If they play Minnesota, I got money on Minnesota.
I do too. I think Minnesota would beat them in the playoffs again pretty easily, especially if they beat them in New Orleans
It's got
pretty
to be because
badly.
they're too cocky or something.
I
Because they'll go 14-2 every year in the regular season or something like that, and they'll choke. I don't know what it is.
They really do. This is Drew Brees' final tour. I think they're going to come out and play really good football. I mean, they need more from Kamara. Kamara did not
He
play well
was kind of
last year.
hurt. I feel like
You may be like, oh,
maybe
he's
he wasn't, but
kind of hurt, I guess. I don't think he was that injured for most of the year, but he needs to be a difference maker like Saquon McCaffrey level for them to be a Super Bowl winner. Because Drew Brees, great quarterback, Hall of Famer, elite, but he can't do it all. They really need some balance on the offense. They need that like 1,500 yards on the ground with Latavius Murray and him to really get it done for them to be a
yeah,
Super Bowl winner. Great defense, great offensive line, but the other two teams above them are even better, and that's why they need a ground game. And because Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, they're difference makers that I don't think the league would have ever expected to see. They're just, I don't even know how to describe it. They're magical.
yeah,
They just, and the thing is, both those teams, Ravens more than the Chiefs, have assembled elite talent around that team. Baltimore's roster is really, really good. They're a wide receiver one away from, I would say, being the consensus.
they
I
got
would
a
put them
couple
above
of wide
consensus. I think
receivers in the
give them like
draft too,
Tyreek Hill.
who have the potential to be awesome. And Marquise Brown played the entire season injured last year, and he still had like 600 yards, a couple touchdowns, and he still is pretty fast. But my big thing with the Ravens is they still have more time on their window than the Chiefs do. Because once the Chiefs pay Patrick Mahomes, that team is going to a cap hell. But Patrick Mahomes is really good though, so I think it could be different.
He is. We have. Don't
He's
forget,
gonna
he's
get like
really
50
good. I
million
mean,
a year.
then
He's gonna get some ridiculous contract. He deserves it though. He's gonna be the
yeah,
best
no,
player of
but
all time.
even with 15, even
That is
that's a
hot,
hot take
but I
too.
believe it.
Even with the Chiefs paying him a lot, they're still going to be really, really good. I think that these two teams are interchangeable. I would love to see them play next year. I won't argue one over the other. I
Well,
will
they
just
do
say
play each
that
other next
Lamar
year.
Jackson hasn't played too well, and I want to see the AFC
Oh yeah,
Championship. That's what I want to say with those two teams. But I do have to say Lamar Jackson's plays slightly declined in the playoffs, but you can't knock him. The man's
he's
23,
entering his third
22.
season,
Like,
and he'll probably be starting his third, fourth playoff game. Or yeah, third. He's 0-2 in the
yeah, it's
playoffs,
crazy.
which kind of sucks, but
I mean, I'm not going to tell you that the Chiefs are that much better than the
it's a battle.
Ravens. I
I
just think
think
that
the
the Chiefs won a
Chiefs,
Super Bowl.
until
It's going
proven
to
that
be
they can be taken down by other teams, are still number one.
will. I would agree with that. But I think Baltimore will give
Oh,
them the
definitely.
run for their money. The Chiefs Super Bowl runs through Baltimore in the AFC.
I,
That's
I
my
mean, I
opinion.
think Kansas City is going to be back in the Super Bowl again next year. I hate to say it, but I think they will. I just don't. Patrick Mahomes cannot be stopped. I just don't know how the Chiefs got so lucky with that pick. Oh my gosh. We have to play him for 20 more years. That's what's going to be killer.
If you're going to give me a Super Bowl prediction right now to finish
Finish
off
off,
the video,
I
Chiefs vs.
got
who? Who
next
are they playing
year,
Super Bowl?
I got Kansas City taking on. You know what? Screw it. I got a rematch.
I
Kansas City, San Fran.
I
Rematch.
would
I think the Saints will choke it.
I'm saying
Minnesota's not good enough. Seattle's not good enough.
I would say I think Kansas City Seattle is my Super Bowl prediction right now. Kansas
I
City
think,
Seattle, and that just shows you elite NFL quarterbacks
yeah, I think it'll
worth
be
more
West
Super Bowls
versus
for you.
West. That's all I got to say.
That'd be pretty nice too. That'd be a pretty cool Super Bowl. But that concludes our power rankings for our first power rankings for our YouTube channel and for the year. These will be updated.
Oh, yeah.
They're way too early. If you disagree with us, let us know down in the comments. We will respond to you. We will further give you analysis on what we think. And stay tuned for an AFC North draft grade that should be coming out either the day after or in the near future. Make sure to like and subscribe as always.